People everywhere are on the move, building, traveling, playing, buying, earning, spending, all at rates that have no precedent in history. With the population increasing every year by the millions and hundreds of thousands of new families being formed, no vital consumer service shows greater promise of continuing growth than the consumer finance industry. And to a recognized leader in the industry, today's dynamic conditions present a very special opportunity. With more than 1,000 offices in the United States and Canada, from Honolulu, Hawaii to St. John's, Newfoundland, from Dawson Creek, British Columbia to Key West, Florida, Household Finance is singularly equipped to meet the cash credit needs of an expanding population. To you, whose responsibility it is to fulfill the promise of quick, confidential lending service, Household Finance Corporation presents Lending is Our Business.
How do you do? It's nice to be able to visit with a household family, even though briefly. You are about to see a film which focuses your attention on the most important part of our business, lending. Our money certainly is no different from that offered by our competitors, and our office locations in many instances are no better. This means that we must excel in friendliness, courtesy, and understanding. Search diligently for facts which will justify our extending credit, rather than seize upon some circumstance that we may use to warrant a turn-down. It is utter folly for household to extend credit to applicants whose credit background or present circumstances indicate an unwillingness or inability to discharge any new obligations. It is equally disturbing when we turn down applicants without securing enough information to make an intelligent decision. Household has always been a vigorous lender, one which quickly extends credit whenever possible. We want to maintain this reputation. We want all people in need of cash credit to think first of household. Because they saw our ads? Yes. Because they saw our television spots or heard our radio programs? Yes. Because they noticed our prominent office locations? Yes. But more importantly, much more importantly, because our customers tell their many friends and acquaintances, if you need a loan, go to Household. Go there because you are greeted with a friendly smile. Go there because you are served promptly by well-informed people. Go there because your problems are listened to considerately. Go there because you can get a loan if your circumstances justify it. We hope that this film, Lending is Our Business, will help you in your daily contact with our customers. We are all striving for the same goal, to maintain our position of leadership in the industry by rendering the finest loan service possible.
Closing time. The end of what might be just another day at any HFC branch. Except that there's something unusual about this particular day in this particular office.
Can't wait to get home and take off these heels. I don't know when I've had a day like this.
Oh, me either. Did you ever feel like you hoped to goodness nobody called you and asked you for a date?
Well...
Staff members are a little bit more tired than usual, perhaps, but they've had other trying days just as you have. Let's look a bit further for the difference in this office.
Well, how'd we do today, Mr. Bellamy?
Oh, so-so, just about average.
Well, let's hope we do better tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's a new day.
Ready? Right away. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Here again, nothing really unusual. The results of the day's lending activities were, in the words of Mr. Bellamy, the manager, just about average. No. What makes this day in this office stand well apart from other days and other offices is not readily apparent from any outward sign. And what we've seen so far are only symptoms. But for every symptom, there's a cause. And uncovering the causes requires careful examination. An examination that goes far beyond any surface indication. That's why what happened here today is so well worth our study. But let's get down to cases. To show you what I mean, let's go back to this morning, to around 11:30, and bring back Miss Varney. Put her in the same situation she faced then. Undoubtedly, Miss Varney herself would be shocked if she could hear a replay of the thoughts that were going through her mind at that time.
The way that phone's been ringing this morning, I'll never get my work done. How they expect me to get anything accomplished with so many interruptions? Oh, there it goes again.
Understandable? Human? Of course. The trouble is, an attitude that allows her to think of a customer as an interruption is certain to be reflected in the way she handles customers.
Household finance.
Hello. I'd like to talk to someone about making a loan.
Have you ever had an account with us before?
Well, no, I haven't.
All right, I'll see if one of the men can take care of you. Could I have your name, please?
Yes, it's George Anderson.
Will you spell that?
A-N-D-E-R.
S-O-N.
Okay, one moment, please.
Miss Varney was going through the motions all right, but she was doing very little more. As a result of her concentration on a particular assignment, her principal concern at this moment was to get rid of an annoying interruption.
You come in this afternoon.
New applicant on form.
We'll discuss your account with you at that time.
With that, Miss Varney felt that she had fulfilled her obligation to household and to the customer. Out of sight, out of mind. Now she could get back to what she considered her most important job. Mr. Anderson, meanwhile, waited and waited, and waited some more. Until finally, he grew tired of waiting. It was the last that household would ever see of Mr. Anderson. Miss Varney, of course, was quite unaware of what had happened. If you had asked her, she'd have said she was doing her job pretty well. In that particular case, the result was just as serious as if she had intentionally insulted the customer. The office lost a potential account, along with all the possible referrals that come from a well-handled customer. All because of an attitude that somehow crept into the way Miss Varney looks at her job. But she's not the only one who reflected the wrong attitude today. For example, there was a point this morning when Mr. Davis was working the phones. Assigned to collections, Mr. Davis has acquired an unfortunate outlook on this important responsibility. If you could have read his mind right then.
They keep talking about building loan account. But you don't get a chance when you're stuck here in collections.
Mr. Davis has the mistaken notion that lending and collection activity do not mix. Unfortunately, at that very moment, he was talking to a customer who might well have been offered additional money as a solution to his problem. Mr. Davis was friendly and businesslike. He got the facts. But he didn't recognize that, whatever his assignment, he should be alert to every opportunity for building sound loan accounts. In that situation, Mr. Davis apparently forgot that lending is our business. Mr. Carter, on the other hand, is assigned to lending. And he, too, found himself in a critical situation earlier today when his attitude affected his lending.
Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton are in room 3, Mr. Carter.
Thanks, Miss Wilkins. Look at that work. 2 cards. And they want more money? We'd really be asking for trouble if we made this one again.
With Mr. Carter exhibiting that kind of an attitude, his mind was closed to their qualifications for a loan. Call it prejudging, guesswork, or what have you. It's an attitude that was bound to make itself evident in poor lending performance. Now, what about Mr. Bellamy, the manager of this office? Just this afternoon, he showed concern as he thought about the office results. Let's see how he analyzed the situation.
I can't understand why we're not doing better. I wonder if it's our location. Or maybe it's the advertising. Or all of those credit plans on the market now. I'll bet that's it.
Excuse me, Mr. Bellamy. I have a turn down here.
Oh, what's the story?
These people are credit happy, and they have just about a C payment record.
I agree. Things are bad enough without getting any more of that on our books.
Far from helping to improve the situation, Mr. Bellamy doesn't even examine a recommended turndown carefully. As a result, he contributes to the poor showing of the office. Unless something is done, and done soon, this office could find its loan account slipping badly. The question is, how different could the results have been if the attitudes had been different? Well, there's one way to find out. Let's go back to those same situations today and see how positive attitudes can change the results. What if Miss Varney, for example, had been looking at things a little differently? Instead of thinking that customers are an interruption, if she realized that customers are her reason for being there.
The way that phone's been ringing and with all the traffic we've had, this ought to be a good day. It's almost time for lunch. Household Finance.
Hello. I'd like to talk to someone about making a loan.
We'll be glad to take care of you. May I have your name, please?
Yes, it's George Anderson.
Is that Anderson?
That's right.
Thank you. Have you ever had an account with us, Mr. Anderson?
No, I haven't.
May I have your address, please?
2113 Elmwood Place.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Now, if you'll wait just a moment, please, Mr. Bellamy, the manager, will speak to you.
What a difference in the way Miss Varney is handling the call this time. And all because of a change in attitude. She realizes that nothing is ever more important than serving a customer well. And she shows it in everything she says and does.
We're sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Bellamy is almost finished with another call. He'll be with you in a moment.
Customers seldom mind unavoidable delays if you explain the reason to them and do it in a way that shows you like people and enjoy dealing with them. You can see that in this case, at least, attitude caused quite a different result. Now, what about Mr. Davis? At one point this morning, he reflected the attitude that you can't be a collector and a lender at the same time. If he would just stop and think, he'd realize that both collection and lending activity incorporate opportunities for building and maintaining sound loan accounts.
Now, there's a loan if I ever saw one. Too bad I couldn't interest them in more money. It would have been a big help to them.
A good collection man with the right attitude recognizes one very important fact. Even an overdue account may provide a lending opportunity, not just a collection challenge. And it's good common sense to give every customer whose account is overdue the consideration he deserves.
Well, from what you've told me, Mr. Holmes,
It seems some additional money would be the best solution to your problem.
well,
I don't know. Like I told you, I did fall behind in those other bills when work was so slow.
You are working steady again, and I'm sure you'll feel a lot better about it if you're on an up-to-date basis with everybody.
Yeah, I guess I would. Okay, fine.
Good. Can you come in today, Mr. Holmes?
How's that for a change in attitude? Lending more money isn't always the solution to a collection problem, of course. But in this case, Mr. Davis was able to recognize a good lending opportunity, thanks to an alert, positive attitude toward his job in collections. Now for Mr. Carter, the assistant who was so quick to jump to a conclusion without proper review of the necessary facts. If he had a healthy curiosity and a genuine interest in people, he wouldn't have been so quick to make a decision based on personal feeling and sketchy information.
Doesn't look too good on the face of it. But there might be some sound basis for a loan here. May take a little digging, but... How do you do, Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton? I'm Mr. Carter.
How do you do?
How much do you want to borrow?
We'd like $500.
We'll be glad to take care of you. If you give me a little more information, we'll see how quickly we can complete it for you.
Mr. Carter's positive attitude changed his whole approach to these customers. By showing them he's sincerely interested in them and their problems, he encourages them to volunteer more of the information he needs. And it's important to remember that every applicant is a potential customer, not someone who's come to ask for a favor. With an alert, sales-like manner, Mr. Carter steadily increases his value to households. Proper attitude is one of those qualities of leadership important. Changes Mr. Bellamy's approach to his responsibility for building loan accounts.
We still get plenty of applications. And when you get right down to it, I'm the one who's responsible for building loan account in this office. If we can just generate some real enthusiasm for lending around here.
Mr. Bellamy, I have an application here that I recommend we turn down.
Oh, what's the trouble?
Well, I think there's just too much against them. I'd like to make the loan, but...
Well, that's to see.
They have a C payment record, but the reasons for it make sense. On top of that, she's working now, too. Only part-time, but it's steady. And I verified all this. It's the debts that are the real problem here.
Yes, I see. But did you consider this? For one thing, this balance. If we could pay off the furniture, add the security, and reduce the payments, they'd be better off, and we will be in a much better...
Well done, Mr. Bellamy. By demonstrating good analysis and positive thinking, you are setting the stage to generate the kind of enthusiasm you were looking for. It's part of the continuing training effort that's such a vital element of good leadership. There again, you saw a result that was quite different when Mr. Bellamy showed the right attitude at the right time and properly fulfilled his training obligations. Attitude was the underlying problem at each of those critical points, with Miss Varney, Mr. Davis, Mr. Carter, and Mr. Bellamy. Unfortunately, however, attitudes do not affect your actions in just isolated situations. If the negative attitude of these people toward lending had continued, chances are it would have affected everything they did in one way or another. But a positive attitude is just as powerful a force the other way. And the best part of it is, it's contagious. Especially when an enthusiastic manager exerts his leadership in generating the same spirit throughout the office. The character of the entire office has changed. The location is the same. The customers are the same. The personnel are the same. The same except for their attitude toward lending. Well, that wasn't so difficult, was it? The members of this staff took a fresh look at themselves and their jobs and began to appreciate the real meaning of the fact that lending is their business. The result was a new attitude, one that affected their whole manner of conducting themselves. Alert, positive, call it what you will. I'm sure you get the idea. Certainly, the new attitude produced no miracles, but no miracles were necessary. As you saw, the men and women of this office didn't have a really poor day. It was just average. But how much difference is there between an average day and a really excellent one? In terms of your own performance, the difference can be very slight indeed. But just as one little lapse by one member of a team can lose a game, putting forth a little extra effort can mean victory. In the same way, being a little more alert, more positive, can mean the difference between mediocre results and results you can be really proud of. Of course, there's more to lending than having the right attitude. But the rest follows once you get started on the right foot. I'll show you what I mean. Because now that this staff is back on the right track, it would certainly be a shame, wouldn't it, not to give them a second chance at some of that business they missed today. Starting with a clean slate, as it were. The day's first applicant was William Jeffrey, a particularly interesting one. Now, the way it went this morning, he was treated in a rather cold and impersonal manner. All that has changed now with the new atmosphere in this office. Right now, Mr. Jeffrey is waiting in room 4. He's a man with a problem which, to him at least, is the most important thing in the world at this particular moment. Why did he come to Household? It happened early this very morning, as Mr. Jeffrey was finishing up the night shift at a nearby industrial plant.
Hi, Jeff. Can I bum a ride with you?
I can give you a lift to the bus, anyway. I got something to take care of. Only, I don't know what I'm going to do about it.
Oh, still looking for a place?
Found one. But to get it, I've got to come up with some dough by tonight. The way things are...
Tell you what, why don't you try HFC? They helped me out of a spot one time. If I were you, I'd stop up and see them.
So here he is, applying for a loan. It's only natural for him to be a bit nervous. Usually, the more urgent the customer's need for a loan, the greater his fear of being turned down. Mr. Carter here should be able to put him at ease. Now that he has an alert, positive attitude, Mr. Carter will start right out by showing a sincere interest in the customer.
Good morning, Mr. Jeffrey. I'm Mr. Carter. How are you this morning?
Well, a little tired. Just got off work.
Well, you must be anxious to get home. We'll be glad to take care of you just as quickly as we can. How much do you need?
$200. I need 2 months' rent in advance, and they'll only hold the place for me until tonight. I got to have the money today.
All right. If you'll just give me a few facts. What is your wife's name, Mr. Jeffrey?
Mary. Mary Louise.
And your address?
Right now?
Yes, your present address.
2402 South Jackson.
Is that an apartment?
Well, actually, it's a room, a furnished room. It's just temporary.
How long have you been there?
Just about a month, since I came to town.
I see. And now you're moving to this new place. So what is the address there?
I've got it written down. It's 3628 South Washington.
Apartment?
Yeah, it's 4 rooms. Looks like a good deal. Furnished and everything.
Well, we want to help you get it, Mr. Jeffrey. I imagine Mrs. Jeffrey is pretty anxious to get out of that one room, too, eh?
Well, actually, we haven't been living together. I mean, she's staying in Detroit with her mother and with the kids, just till we get settled. Has been kind of tough.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Jeffrey. Now, what is your wife's address in Detroit?
Working from the basic facts, Mr. Carter is able to piece together Mr. Jeffrey's situation. He's been on his present job, a lift truck operator, for a month, as long as he's been here in town. Before that, while living with his mother-in-law for 2 months, he drew unemployment compensation. Prior to that, he had a 2-month job in a plant in Cleveland, where he lived by himself. And before that, he had a 5-year job at a Detroit automobile plant. During this period, the Jeffreys had a 4-year residence in the Detroit area. It was shortly after he was laid off at the auto plant that they broke up housekeeping and the family went to live with her mother. Now, with Mr. Carter's newly acquired alert, positive attitude, he is showing a healthy curiosity and a sincere, friendly interest in the applicant. Exploring for further facts, he continues to search for ways to make the loan. Yeah, it's 6 years old, but it sure runs good. And it's all mine.
It's always nice for a man to have his car paid for, isn't it? Now, what accounts do you have outstanding, Mr. Jeffrey?
Well, let's see here. I owe Modern Clothiers about $50.
Modern Clothiers? What's their address?
It's a downtown store, Detroit. All my accounts are in Detroit.
I see. And what are the others, Mr. Jeffrey?
Well, there's the finance company, Central Loan. I borrowed $180 from them back in, well, just before I lost my job. But I've been paying pretty regular, $14 a month.
Right up to date?
Well, I haven't paid them for this month.
All right. Now, what others do you have?
Well, I owe my mother-in-law $290.
Let's hold it right here. Because by this time, some lenders might feel they have enough facts to make a decision. It's quite true that at this point in the interview, a good deal of information has been gathered. Some of it, such as his present short-time job, short-time residence, apparent family instability, or lack of good security, could point toward a turn-down. Other factors, however, such as previous job and residence stability, or apparent intent to pay, might justify further development that could lead to a loan. Now that Mr. Carter has an alert, positive attitude toward lending, let's see what course he'll take. We'll pick up again right where we left off.
You say you owe your mother-in-law $290.
Yeah. She loaned me $100 to come here.
And the other $190?
Well, I figure that's the least I owe her for taking care of the family. She's not bad off, you understand. Not rich, but I just feel I owe it to her, that's all. To take care of the food, at least. I figured it out. So much a week.
I see. Now, are there any other payments you're making?
Yeah, there's the loan on the garage, but I'm afraid we still owe quite a bit on that.
A garage? Where is it located? I mean, you own a home then?
Yeah, that Roseville address, just outside Detroit.
Oh, yes. And you still own the home?
Me and the mortgage company.
Are the payments up to date?
You bet they are. You see, that's the whole thing. That's why we decided to move out. We didn't want to lose the place. With the tough luck I was having being laid off and not being able to find a decent job, we figured the only thing to do was rent it out until we got straightened around. So we moved in with Mary's mother.
How much are you renting it for?
$150 a month. It's not a big place, but it is furnished. We left our furniture. After we make our house payments, we clear nearly $40 a month.
I see. Now, after you move your family here with you, what do you plan to do with your house?
Well, if this new job works out, we'll probably sell it as soon as we get caught up and can see our way clear to buy a place here. But I don't want to rush into anything until I'm pretty sure that I got no more going out than I got coming in.
The picture still isn't complete. And although this application requires a careful analysis, Mr. Carter now sees a potential loan developing. Once you have the alert, positive attitude, it's a matter of 1, gathering adequate information, and 2, correctly analyzing the facts. But let's see what kind of a decision Mr. Carter has reached on the Jeffrey application.
I think we may have a loan here. But of course I can't be certain until I've verified all this. And he has to have the money today or he loses the apartment.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Bellamy. I'll ask him to come back around 4:30.
Could he make it all right?
Yes, he's on the night shift.
Fine.
Alert, positive. It's an attitude that makes this business a lot more interesting and enjoyable. And regardless of the outcome of the Jeffrey application, Mr. Carter has demonstrated an approach that pays dividends. Instead of looking for reasons to turn down a loan, he's looking for ways to make every sound loan he possibly can. It's the same aggressive, enthusiastic spirit you'll now find throughout this office. By this time, Mr. Davis has been successful in developing a loan while working the phones. And now he's carrying this same approach over into his dictated collection letters.
If additional money will help solve your problem, please phone or come into the office as soon as possible.
The solicitation opportunities in any branch office are truly unlimited. All it takes is an alert, positive lender to make the most of these opportunities. Here's a good example. It's a letter notifying the customer of the expiration date for renewing insurance on an auto loan. If you need help in financing this insurance, or if you would like additional money for any purpose, please phone us or come into this office. We look forward to serving you in any way we can. Very truly yours, R.S. Bellamy, Manager. Again, there's no end to these opportunities. Every letter to an eligible customer should include a solicitation. And here's another good lending opportunity that can arise at any time. Our alert Miss Varney has just given a credit reference to a competitor, a bank that phoned about a customer. She reports it to Mr. Bellamy immediately because she knows he wants to take quick action.
Hello? Is this Mrs. Mary Harris? Well, this is Mr. Bellamy, the manager at Household. How are you today?
Pretty well. How are you?
Well, just fine, thank you.
There isn't any trouble with our account, is there?
No problem at all. I'm just calling to let you know that we've had an opportunity to give you folks a good credit rating today. But frankly, Mrs. Harris, we're a little disappointed that you didn't come to us first. Is there some reason that you're dissatisfied with our service?
No, you've been very good.
You know, we'd certainly appreciate a chance to help you out right now. How much money do you need, Mrs. Harris?
$400. But my husband has already made arrangements to get it.
Well, we'd be glad to handle that for you. In fact, we could take care of it for you immediately.
Well, I'd have to talk to my husband about it. Did you say we could get it today?
Alert, positive action. Good lenders are quick to follow up every credit inquiry from a bank or credit union whenever practical. Of course, if Mr. Bellamy had not been able to get in touch with the Harrises, he would have made certain that the customer was solicited the next time he was in contact with the office. And the nice part of it is that far from resenting being solicited, people actually like to be sold. As a matter of fact, I wish you could be there tonight when Mr. and Mrs. Harris discuss Mr. Bellamy's call.
I think it was very thoughtful of him to take such an interest in us, don't you?
My dear, that Bellamy fellow was just building his business by giving good service. That's his job. But I quite agree that there's far too little of that these days. In fact, I'd be inclined to give him our business for that reason alone. This is delicious.
A friendly, sales-like attitude is bound to create new business, and not just in direct solicitation. Everything you do in your contact with customers, quite aside from direct solicitation, has a powerful effect. It's your alert, positive approach, the service you give, that builds loyal customers and causes them to recommend Household to their friends. Every time you answer the phone with a smile, every time you use a customer's name, each of these seemingly little things is a form of indirect solicitation. And you never know when it'll lead to a new loan. Even these turndowns can mean future business. While the percentage may vary, turndowns are inevitable. But they're not necessarily a total loss if you handle them properly. You're bound to leave a better impression on an applicant when he feels that he's been given every consideration and he's been treated with genuine courtesy. So he's more likely to come back to Household when his circumstances do improve. Now, here's another application that should be interesting with the new attitude that exists in this office. The applicant is George Seymour. He's in the interview room right now with Mr. Carter. Let's see how Mr. Carter handles it. The way it originally went this morning, the loan was made for $250, the amount applied for. But now, Mr. Carter, after correctly analyzing the facts, has decided that Mr. Seymour qualifies for $500. So what's the next step? Do you suppose Mr. Carter will be content with just offering him the $250 he asked for?
Well, thanks a lot, Mr. Carter. We certainly appreciate it.
Well, not at all. But are you sure $250 will be enough?
Oh, plenty. Our insurance covers most of it, you know, even with the complications.
Well, I'm glad of that. That takes care of the hospital. But what about the doctor?
Yeah, we'll still owe him $100. But I can work it out.
I'm sure you can. But you're going to have plenty of extra expenses with a new baby, and wouldn't you and your wife feel better about having the doctor bill paid?
Well, I don't know. How much would that increase our payments?
Just $5 a month, Mr. Seymour.
Well, maybe that would be a good idea.
Fine. We'll be glad to take care of that for you, Mr. Seymour. Now, is there anything else? You need baby furniture, clothes?
No, we've taken care of all that. Been saving for months.
Fine. You've certainly done a good job taking care of your finances. But if you need more money at any time, we'll be glad to take care of you.
Okay, thanks.
And if you know anyone else who might use our service, we'd certainly appreciate it if you refer them to Household.
I sure will.
Thank you. Now, if you'll excuse me for a moment, I'll have your loan papers completed. I'll be right back, Mr. Seymour.
Mr. Carter has done a good job of building loan account, and he performed a service for the customer at the same time. Mr. Seymour appreciates it, and he's anxious to tell his wife about it.
Dr. Schultz says I'll be able to go home day after tomorrow.
Hey, wonderful. Everything's all set.
What about the loan?
Honey, we didn't have a thing to worry about. I got the $250, and on top of that, they lent us another $100 to take care of the doctor.
Really? Oh, I'm so relieved.
Yep, all you have to do is just relax.
Oh, did you pick up the diapers?
Oh, I'll do that after I leave here. But the money's the main thing.
All because Mr. Carter was alert to an opportunity. But it's not always selling more money that builds loan accounts. Sometimes you can prevent a turndown by showing an applicant that a lesser amount will benefit him. Here's an example of that. Mr. Childress applied for $100 in cash, plus enough to consolidate all his debts, a pretty sizable amount. The way it went this morning, it was a turndown. Let's see how Mr. Bellamy handles it this time. After gathering adequate information, verifying where necessary, and correctly analyzing the facts, Mr. Bellamy still is convinced that the loan should be made for only $300, considerably less than Mr. Childress asked for.
A guy doesn't like to have all those debts to worry about.
I can certainly appreciate that, Mr. Childress. Here's what we'd like to do for you. Lend you the $100 in cash you asked for, plus enough to pay off the dentist, your clothing balance, the jeweler. Altogether, another $200.
Mm-hmm. But what about the car?
All right, let me show you how that works out for you. Your auto payments are $50 a month, right?
Yeah.
And with the balance you have, we can't reduce your payments enough to be of any help at this time. There just would be no advantage to you. But on these other three accounts, you're now paying a total of $48 a month.
Yeah.
And the way we recommend you handle it, you'll be paying household only $18 a month, $30 a month less. That should be a big help, don't you think?
Well, that's better, all right.
So altogether, with your auto loan and your household loan, your total monthly payments will come to only $68 instead of $98. And with your income, Mr. Childress, you should be able to handle that without any trouble. Now, in about 6 months, these balances should be down to a point where we can consider further consolidation to reduce your total monthly payments still more. We'll make a note of it.
Well, that makes sense.
Fine, Mr. Childress. Now, let's see. Your auto payment...
You see the technique Mr. Bellamy used? Selling a lesser amount requires considerable skill. Always try to find a really worthwhile solution to the customer's money problem, then explain it to him in such a way that he can clearly see the benefit to him. You'll find that many times it will help you end up with a loan instead of a turndown, and with another satisfied customer, spreading goodwill for households.
No, these outfits are all the same, Hank. They're all trying to stick you.
I wouldn't say that, Charlie. They're not all the same.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Now take this HFC outfit. The manager up there, what's his name? Bellamy. Seems like he's really trying to do the best for you. Know what I mean?
What'd you say his name was?
Bellamy. You ought to go up and see him. Customer referrals, as you undoubtedly know, are household's best source of new business. Another good reason for making every sound loan you can, even if it has to be for less than the customer asked for. There are other times, of course, when it seems that no amount of development will uncover a basis for a sound loan. As a matter of fact, it's a situation that's facing Mr. Carter right at this moment.
Oh, Mr. Bellamy, I have a turn down here. James McGee.
McGee? Oh, yes, PRS, isn't he?
Yes, has a balance of $112, B payment record. The purpose of this loan is to buy a boat and motor.
Okay, what's the problem?
Well, I just don't see how he can make the loan. He's really been increasing his debts. Look at how much he owes and the payments. Furniture, credit union, balance at a hardware store on a lawnmower.
Uh-huh. Still has the revolving charge. Bought a new car, too. I see the problem.
Yes, if we make him this loan, with his payments and other expenses, it could be the straw that breaks his back.
And yet he's a good customer. He has a 12-year job, solid citizen. There ought to be some way.
That's it exactly.
Well, it doesn't look too good. But I'd like to go back with you and talk to him just to be certain we haven't missed something here.
Fine.
Hello, Mr. McGee. Good to see you again.
Hi, Mr. Bellamy. Well, what's the verdict? Got enough here to cover me?
We sure have, Mr. McGee, but we need a little more information. Mr. Carter and I have looked at this from every possible angle, and there are one or two points here that make us wonder how you'll be able to repay this loan.
Well,
To begin with, you have a number of other obligations here that...
Don't I know it?
Frankly, Mr. McGee, we're a bit concerned about them, too.
In this situation, Mr. Bellamy acted wisely in deciding to go back over the facts in an attempt to develop a loan. With an alert, positive attitude, he and Mr. Carter want to find some sound basis for making the loan. At present, however, all the facts indicate a turndown. So Mr. Bellamy knows that he has nothing to lose and everything to gain by trying to develop further information. By showing a sincere interest in the customer and his money problems, Mr. Bellamy encourages him to present added facts that might have been overlooked, perhaps extra income, or some other fact that would offer some hope of making a sound loan.
Believe me, Mr. McGee, we sincerely want to lend you the money you'd like to have. We had hoped to be able to find some way of consolidating these accounts. But you can see for yourself, it just doesn't work out. There's no way we can consolidate your other debts that will cut your payments enough to help.
So, you're not going to let me have the money?
Well, Mr. McGee, unless you see some other solution that hasn't occurred to us, I'm afraid we have no choice. But perhaps a little later, when these balances have been reduced, we can consolidate some of them and reduce your payments.
Sometimes no amount of development will uncover a solution. When that's the case, there's no alternative but to turn the applicant down. Doing it as tactfully as you can, of course. If possible, try to let the customer see for himself that the loan would not be to his advantage. With careful handling, you still have an excellent chance of maintaining the goodwill of the customer.
Hi, hon.
Hi, dear. Did you get the money?
Well, no. They said not right now, at least.
What?
Yeah, I was a little upset, too, at first. But, well, we talked it over, and there just doesn't seem to be any way they can help us out right now. You know, I think they're right. Maybe it would be better if we paid off some of our accounts before we borrow any more.
Every lending decision, whether it's to make or turn down a loan, if it's a really sound decision, will automatically be in the best interest of the customer and household. And gathering adequate information, verifying as necessary, then correctly analyzing the facts is the only way to a sound lending decision.
Say, did you get anything yet on that Jeffrey application?
Yes, the job and residence are okay here. Cleveland reported the same thing. But the Detroit report is the one that really counts. Just came in a while ago.
Oh, how's it look?
I'll get it.
Mr. Bellamy, is the payment date on this the 18th? Thank you.
They gave him quite a send-off. Everything checks out first rate. The house payments, the loan on the garage, the competitor, everything.
Good.
And listen to this. A neighbor at the former address has known the Jeffreys for over 5 years. Says he's the most conscientious guy there is. Even when he was laid off, he tried to keep busy with part-time work, anything he could get.
Well, what's your next step?
Well, this is even better than I hoped for. With this kind of report, I'd like to make him for $200 now, because he needs this amount today, and arrange to pick up the competitor balance later with his wife signing.
You're quite sure?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Give it a try. If he shows up, that is.
Mr. Bellamy, with the kind of service we give, how could we ever get a turn down? Oh, Mr. Bellamy, take a look.
Good afternoon, sir. Oh, Mr. Jeffrey, we've been expecting you. Have a seat in room 3, please. We'll be with you in just a moment.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. May I help you?
Yes, I'd like to make a payment. We're a few days late, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Mrs. Meyer. You have a very fine payment record.
Well, my husband's been out of work for a few weeks due to the bad weather, but he's working steady now.
Oh, that's good news, isn't it? But since he was out of work, maybe you could use some extra money right now, Mrs. Meyer. There must be several expenses you'd like to take care of.
It appears that the transformation of this office has indeed been complete. And of this you may be certain. The positive attitudes of the men and women in this office will continue to reinforce each other, just as an increasing loan account has a way of gaining momentum and building on itself. One good loan deserves and usually leads to another.
You were sure right, Harry.
Well, what?
The loan. I got the money, all right. No trouble at all. So we're all set with the apartment.
Say, that's great, Jeff.
Mary and the kids are tickled to death.
I'll bet.
You know, they're even going to take over our loan in Detroit. That's a good outfit.
What are you talking about?
HFC.
Household finance? They're okay, huh? That's good to know.
The future of this office looks bright indeed. But you don't have to look that far to find the benefits to the men and women of the staff. The outward signs are quite apparent. Once again, it's closing time.
Good night, Miss Barney. Good night, everybody. Good night, everyone.
It's a time for thoughtful persons to reappraise themselves and the progress their office made during the day.
Have you seen the traffic control sheet?
Isn't that something? Very good day.
Yes. I feel pretty good, too. What do you say we stay down and see a movie?
Sounds fine. What's playing?
Well, there are several good ones on. Now, let's see.
The end of what could be a typical day in any branch office anywhere.
How'd we do today, Mr. Bellamy?
Yes, what's the score?
Fine, just fine. Here, see for yourself.
12, 13, 14.
Say, that's all right.
And look at the size of some of them.
That's right. And did you see what we have lined up for tomorrow?
Tomorrow should really be a good day.
Well, gentlemen, ready for home?
Yeah, I've got my car across the street. Can I give you a lift?
No, thanks. Have my car.
Say, Mr. Bellamy, that Livingston app I took this afternoon, he's coming in tomorrow morning. What's wrong?
Well, I guess there's very little more to be said. Unless perhaps you're thinking that the men and women in this office had an unfair advantage over you in getting a chance to live the day all over again. True. That's one opportunity you will not have. But it's the only one. Because remember, tomorrow is a new day. And lending is your business.
Lending is our business, and the building of sound loan account is the full-time responsibility of every member of the branch office staff. I'm sure that you're aware of the importance of your own personal contribution to the team effort and how the attitudes of both you and your fellow employees are directly reflected in the success of your branch office and in the continued health and prosperity of the entire corporation. Since lending is household's business, I'm sure that you'll agree with me, lending is also your business.